All right, Heather. A through Z.
Let's go W.
W. I mean, I guess if you want to go W, if you really insist on going W, I can start with Sterling's Pentacorner. This past week on WWE, Penta wrestled again. He had some really cool new pyro. They did a little spiraling sparkler thing behind him. Super dope. Loved it. Fucking loved it. Looks sick. Match was really good too. Really good match. He was really settled in this one.
Yeah, looked a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. Did some of the same moves, which are good because those are kind of signature moves he does. So you want to see that. You want to see, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to see, The Rock come out and not do the people's elbow. You know what I mean? They want to see the go-tos. So you got that. He's establishing what his moveset's going to be in the WWE. Like I said, a lot more calm. Way less mistakes. Really good match. But also, like I said, though, really cool pyro. Loved it. Stick with that one. Loved it. That was really about it. I just really wanted to talk about that pyro. Super cool. That's it for the Penta Corner. Expect these every week. I'm just super stoked. It's super great. And also, I didn't have to watch all of it. Like, I can't, watched a movie that night. The movie we're talking about now. Came home, pulled it up, was able just to watch what I need to. And they get rid of the commercial breaks in the replay on Netflix. Fantastic.
Love that.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I watched it on Tuesday and I was like, oh, they're not here. Yes.
I understand why they need them during the thing. They're paying a lot of money for it. WWE contractually has their own sponsors they need to do. All that stuff. 100% get it. Cool that I don't have to see that in the replays. Awesome. So, yeah, I'm really digging WWE on Netflix right now. It's fantastic.
I would be curious, who of our listeners honestly just only listens to the news portion of our podcast for all the things that you'll bring up about anything.
Buckle up. This one's all over the place today. Because
we could be someone's news source. You know what I mean?
If you've just got very little interest in actual news and you just want to hear the random shit that comes to my fucking brain when we do the segment, I guess I feel bad for you. I live in this head. It's not fun. Yeah, let's do a hard pivot. Bob Uecker died. Unfortunately, it got kind of overshadowed when he died the same day that David Lynch died. But Bob Uecker, if anybody knows, he was the dad on Mr. Belvedere. But where everybody should know him from is he's the announcer in the Major League movies. He was an actual announcer, I think, for the Milwaukee Brewers. I could be wrong. Don't hinge that on it, but he was a professional announcer for baseball also. But yes, he was the announcer in the Major League movies. And let's be honest, regardless of whatever your feelings are about those movies, he is the best thing in those movies. Like if you like him, he makes it. And if you don't like it, you still like him in it. I don't care. Because he's fantastic in those movies. But yeah, real sad that he passed away. Because I really do. As much as I hate to say this might damage my credibility. I like most of the Major League movies. Not 3, not Back to the Minors. But I like Major League. I like Major League 2. Which that's, I think, the controversial one. Is not just liking Major League. I think most people would be okay with that. It's like I like Major League 2. I do. I know I shouldn't. But I do. And it's mainly because of him. He's just fantastic. I love him. But yeah, really sad. I guess another really hard pivot. See, this is a rough news segment. We're going over Whitewater Rapids with this news. They announced the Academy Award nominees today. And our resident reader of things is going to read us some of the nominees here.
Yeah. All right. So for Best Picture, we've got Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked.
It's at least a well-rounded Best Picture lineup.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them, but it's well-rounded at least.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen The Substance yet, but like the fact that that's like essentially that's a horror film, right? And it's just, it's getting all of this like buzz about it, which is really cool because, you know, horror films don't get that a lot. But I mean, I don't know, like if I hadn't have just seen Anora, I probably would have like wanted Conclave to win because I really liked Conclave. But Anora, I think, is just, I want Anora to take it home, or I would be fine with Wicked too, but I would like Anora to take that one home. It probably won't, but
of the ones I've seen, that's probably would be the ones that's the one I'm rooting for the most.
Yeah.
Is Anora.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're getting into Best Actor. We got Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet. Oh, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan, The Apprentice, and that's it for that. I'm curious about this Apprentice movie. Everyone says he's amazing in it.
Yeah. I mean,
I kind of want Coleman to get that one because I just love him.
I haven't seen Sing Sing yet, but
me neither.
I don't necessarily hate that idea. Just Coleman Domingo getting an Academy Award just sounds great.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I'm like, I don't even care what it's for. He's just great and everything. So it would make sense no matter what it was. But I mean, just because I haven't seen all of those, like Ray Fiennes, I think was great. So, you know,
yeah, well,
I'd probably be fine with any of these really. All right. So we've got our supporting actor. We got Yura Borisov for Anora, which is very exciting. I'm very excited about that.
That's the one I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool that he got a nomination.
Yeah. And I love that he's not even the love interest that you see like in the trailers or anything. I love that he is the one nominated. Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain, Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce, The Brutalist, Jeremy Strong, The Apprentice.
I mean,
that's a good list.
Yeah, you're Kieran would be great to me.
Yeah, I love Kieran Culkin.
But I just really love that, like, you know, this kind of shows that other people that watched Anora ended up feeling the same way. Of like that he just kind of ends up coming in and stealing so much of that movie once he's in it. So you're just like, I like that we're just not alone in that. Pretty much everyone else that saw it, we're like, yeah, that guy.
Because it's also the combination of what Jastin talked a lot about in it, where it's like a lot of things is just not even being said. It's just his reactions, his looks and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But also I feel like his character is just the epitome of what a supporting actor is. Like he that is the best definition of a supporting actor that I can think of in a movie.
I am also just kind of sad though that we don't get a Stanley Tucci from Conclave.
That is very upsetting. I was sad about that too because he was fantastic in that. And it's Stanley Tucci, so you know. All right, so we got Best Actress. We got Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Anora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here.
I'm a little less informed in this category, but I wouldn't mind if Mikey Madison won that.
I would love for her to win. Cynthia Erivo would be cool because I think that would make her an EGOT winner if she does win. But also like and again, I haven't seen The Substance, but Demi Moore, like at the Golden Globes, like that this is the first thing that she's ever even gotten anything for. And I kind of love that for her. So I think I'm fine with any of them, really.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And I haven't seen The Substance either, but God, the buzz that Demi Moore is getting about the role. And it would be nice to see somebody who's been acting so long and for a long time was typecasted as she only does one type of movie. She can only do one type of movie. You know, she was like a sex symbol for like the longest time. And that was like all anybody wanted to do with her. That's all that anybody saw her as. But to come around and to like have this chance to like, and I mean, she's done good acting in other films, but it always felt like that kind of was, I just know she was typecasted for a long time. And sometimes it takes forever to kind of remove that stigma about you. So for her to have been in the game so long and to finally like really get a role that allows her to really showcase her talent, she feels like one of those people like it's long overdue. Like, I don't, obviously you want to give it to the person who acted the best, but some of these people are like 20 somethings and, you almost feel like they got plenty of time to win this. Like sometimes you just like to see those vets who've been in it for so long finally get some due, finally get some flowers, kind of like Michelle Yeoh. Like that was really cool.
Well, and it's also like when Martin Scorsese finally won Best Director for The Departed. Is The Departed his best picture? No. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, nobody was like upset by it.
Exactly. You're not mad that he finally won one. You're just going, it sucks that they had to give it to you for this movie, which is not even a bad movie. Don't get me wrong. I like The Departed, but it's not his best. That was probably the easiest one for them just to go, yeah, it's him. Just give it to him.
Right.
And,
I mean,
and I like what you said though, like, and I hate it because I claim the Golden Globes did it to Cynthia Erivo or to Wicked when it lost Best Musical to Amelia Perez. And I'm like, yeah, because they know the sequel's coming out this year and they're just going to give it to it then. I almost feel like you can do that with Cynthia. I don't like that. Like, I don't like that I'm claiming you can just do that. If you're going to give it to her for this, it's not like she's going to be worse in Wicked 2. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's the unfortunate thing. If you got this in Wicked 1, you're going to get the same in Wicked 2.
Right. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And probably even more based on, I guess, probably the progression of the story.
Yeah.
I would agree with that too. Like, and unfortunately, like, I don't think she is going to win just because, like, I've just heard so much more surrounding some of these other performances. But again, I think she was great. Like, she's fantastic. And honestly, she has one of the best voices ever. But Demi Moore, like, that woman is 62 years old. And she is still one of the most beautiful women that's ever existed. But like, I've always liked her as an actress. Like, I know she doesn't have like a lot of variety of roles she's done, but I've always just really liked her for some reason. So this is that's cool for her,
Yeah. And I mean, not to give anything away, but if you're interested in watching Substance, go to the place you watch movies that I buy things. Just saying that to you two. It is there.
Noted. And then we got supporting actress. We've got Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande, Wicked, Felicity Jones, The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini, Conclave, Zoe Saldana, Amelia Perez. I mean, I got to give it to Ariana on that one, to be fair.
Yeah, see, like for me, I'm team Ariana for Wicked. Like if anybody wins from Wicked, for the first part of Wicked, maybe Cynthia Erivo, maybe the part 2.
Yeah.
She might act even better in that one. But to me, if anybody should win anything from that movie, it's Ariana Grande. I liked Cynthia Erivo in Wicked Part 1. I loved Ariana Grande in Wicked Part 1. I think she should win if anybody wins from that movie anyway. But
yeah, and this is the category I'd say I'm less informed on for the performances. And Isabella Rossellini, I just feel like her role in Conclave was just so small that it almost surprises me she's nominated.
It's because of the type of movie it is. That's why I'm really surprised that Stanley Tucci didn't get a Best Supporting also. You can't have Conclave. You can't have Conclave in your Best Picture race. And, was it Ralph Fiennes is in the Best, actor category.
Acting.
And you don't put Stanley Tucci?
Yeah.
Because
and that's no shade to Isabella, but she's just not in it enough.
I'm fine with her being in this. It just makes no sense that you're putting her in this and not Stanley Tucci also. Because it's a very important role. There's, she does a lot of stuff with it and all this other stuff. I'm fine with her being in it. I just don't understand on the flip side how the Tooch isn't. Now,
I agree.
If you're telling me though that Yora got nominated and he took Stanley's spot, I might have to give it to you. If you're sitting there going, look, it was Stanley or Yora, I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, if anybody's going to make that an okay thing, it's Yora for sure. Yeah. I agree with that. All right, so then we've got, do we want to do animated feature?
I mean, we can. I know 2 of those movies.
Yeah, Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, The Wild Robot. I mean, I don't it's funny that I typically when it has the animated the animated feature film, I've seen maybe one of the whole list. I've actually seen at least 2 of these. I would vote Inside Out 2, but there's a case to be made for Wild Robot as well.
But that Flow movie won the Golden Globe, didn't it?
I'm going to say Flow because it's got a cat.
Oh, and see, to be fair, I don't know anything about that movie.
I mean, I saw pictures of it and it looks really cool. I mean, it looks amazing, but I, just haven't seen the movie or even know if the movie is available. What was it? A limited release? I never even heard of this until it won the Golden Globe.
If you guys are really interested, Flow can end up in the same spot Substance is. So just let me know.
Nice.
Because it is available for purchase there.
Nice.
But yeah, Inside Out or Wild Robot would have my vote.
I mean,
for sure. For right now, anyway.
I just want to skip to one category, Heather, just because it's one of the more side ones, but I think we can kind of speak to it a little bit. Best achievement in visual effects. Because they've got Alien Romulus, Dune Part 2, A Better Man, which, fuck that movie, Wicked, and then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And to me, as much as Wicked has really good CGI, Dune has good CGI, Alien Romulus has good CGI, A Better Man has, I guess, some CGI. I mean, but is it really anything other than Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? Really? Is there really any debate in that to people? How do you watch that movie with these humanoid sentient apes? They're just, they look real. I mean, I don't see how any other movie has a chance.
That's fair.
In that category.
I honestly thought you were going to say Alien Romulus, because for me, I was especially that acid thing.
Oh, no, that's all super cool and shit, but it's not Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Man, that's tough for me. All of those movies, I haven't seen A Better Man or whatever, but all of those movies, man, especially Dune, man. Dune looked incredible, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
I don't
not-
know
yeah.
who's
It's-
going to win that.
but
That's
this is
close. to
just
me.
special effects though, because this isn't what is it? Production design. I think if you want to give production design to Dune, fair enough. If you want to
Yeah.
give production design to Wicked, fair enough. Honestly, though, that's Nosferatu, right? If you're really getting into the production design, it's Nosferatu, right? Like,
Yeah,
Fair.
it's nominated for cinematography. I really hope
Oh.
it wins that.
See,
Like,
and-
how the heck
in
could
what universe
Nosferatu
is that
lose
not
that?
the most
I know.
cinematographic movie ever? I know I just made up that word, but like, fuck.
No, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, if there is any like movie that I'm like, I need this to win that category, it's Nosferatu. Like, it just needs to win.
And that's why I think production design also, like, you know what I mean? Like production design, it fits.
Yeah.
But I think when you're getting just into the visual effects, I just don't know how you beat Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I mean,
that's a
that
good
was,
point.
they made a whole ape planet, guys. And
That's a good point.
it looked like it was fucking that was it, that documentary Planet Earth. It looked like they did that shit with some fucking apes, man.
I mean, you are looking at, since the main characters are apes, you are looking at visual effects literally the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
So
and,
there
and to
is
me, it's
that.
almost flawless. Like, I don't remember seeing anything in that whole movie where I'm like, oh, that got a little spotty.
Yeah. It looked off or anything.
It just
Yeah.
was clean the whole way.
Mhm.
All right. The last one I've got is director. Honora, Sean Baker for Honora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, and Coralie Faragit for The Substance. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those.
I mean, I get why people would say maybe, what's his name, Jacques or whatever. But, you know, as the director of a movie that's in Spanish about Mexican culture, and his mindset behind it was, I don't need to know a damn thing about that. I'm French. That kind of just makes me think you're disqualified. Like, I mean, and I'm not even trying to say anything about the movie or anything. That's literally a quote from him, though. Is I don't need to know anything about Mexican culture to make this movie about Mexican culture. Like this, come on.
Interesting.
No, shut up.
I mean, my vote would be Honora again, but I feel like The Brutalist is going to get it.
I just haven't been able to watch it yet. Plus, that movie's 3.5 hours long. It's 3.5 hours
Oh.
long. Guys, it's 3.5 hours long.
Amelia?
No,
Which one?
The Brutalist.
Brutalist.
Oh, it's 3.5.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's 3.5 hours long. I don't know if I can do that.
Could
Unless
be
it was
wrong.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, that was a big risk, though. That was a big risk. Maybe because I'm not going to be able to see The Brutalist in theaters. So maybe that's what saves it. Is I can pause it, eat a protein bar, regain some strength, and continue on. Chug an energy drink or two.
Right. Although I will like something that I did think was kind of cool. So The Brutalist is like the highest like rated from Rotten Tomatoes in the Academy Awards, tied with Honora. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got.
That's a good little summary.
Yeah.
Outside of that, one last thing I guess I wanted to touch on. And I won't even get into any specifics, but I think if you know what's going on in these here United States, I think you'll understand what I'm saying. So there was an instance where somebody of great renown did what people are calling a Nazi salute. And people have come to his defense. And one of the things I've seen as a common defense of this is they're saying, no. It It was a Roman salute. You know, like what you see in the movie Gladiator, what you see in like a Spartacus. You know, what you see in those movies. That's what he was doing. I just want to give people a brief history of that because it weirdly ties into movies. So as far as it being a Roman salute or what people would call a Roman salute or anything like that, there's weirdly this thing called no evidence of anything being like a Roman salute like that. The Romans depicted a lot of stuff they did in paintings and this and that. And there's just nothing of that. The earliest example, so the one that just the longest ago of something remotely close to that is, I believe, a French painting from the 1880s. So the late 1800s is the first example of anything close to that. And then the next really major example of that it's this time period that people kind of know a little bit about. It's roughly the 1930s and 1940s. There were some things going on in Italy very specifically where Rome was. There was this man named Benito Mussolini. To not get into too deep into historical context, he is the person that more or less made what we call fascism a thing. Was him. And he did and had his soldiers do what he called a Roman salute, which is what this person did. So it's a weird defense by, just saying it's not a German fascist thing. It's an Italian fascist thing. And that's supposedly better. But to tie this back into movies, one reason why people today think that is an actual historically accurate Roman salute is because people making movies went, oh, hey, this Italian dictator said this is a Roman salute. Therefore, when we do things in our movies, like a Spartacus or a Gladiator or any of these other fucking, Gladiator Roman movies, they did that. Not because it's historically accurate, but because some dickhead in the 30s and 40s said it was a Roman salute and they did it. Not realizing that they were continuing a fascist salute. So the defense of saying that is a thing because it's a Roman salute, not a Nazi salute, whatever, does have weirdly connections to Hollywood and movies and how just horribly accurate you're inaccurate basing any sort of historical context on movies is. Don't base your history on movies, kids. It's wrong most of the time. Even when it says, based on a true story. We've touched on that a few times. That just means something actually happened and they went, hey, that's good for a scene in our movie. Let's make up every fucking thing else.
Yep.
Just throwing that out there. Don't base your history on movies. No matter how accurate you think it is. It's probably not. Just going to go out on a weird limb there. There's a reason why they don't show movies. Should be
some sort of a TikTok series or something of a person basing their history on movies and talking about stuff and doing stuff and just being hella wrong and inaccurate all the time. That would make a funny series.
There is a guy on TikTok that has asked the question, like, what's something in a movie that's supposedly real, like based on a real event, that's just not? It's people like stitching it and like giving context to things and all this other stuff. But yes, I get what you're saying, Jastin. That actually would be really kind of funny. Like if you describe Saving Private Ryan as like historical events from World War II, but you don't bring up D-Day.
Yeah.
You just base it all off the other events.
Yeah.
I think it'd be even better if you just and you just didn't say the character names, you said the actors. And then like Tom Hanks was shooting some Nazis because he was trying to save Matt Damon.
That would be hilarious. Or just imagine somebody going, you know, that what was that movie about the we talked about it on the White Savior episode, but it was the black women that
Hidden Figures? Or The House?
Yes. That one. Yeah, like that movie where he was like, we're not gonna have any segregated bathrooms, and he like threw the sign down and stuff like that. Like, it would be funny to be like, you know what? I'm gonna find the family members left of that guy and thank them for and talk about how he's a hero to me, and going to trying to find the family of this person who did something that just doesn't exist and shit. Like, I think it would be hilarious.
If I'm thinking correct, that character also might not have been a real person.
Yeah.
I think I found that out fairly recently, that Kevin Costner was not playing a real human being.
Yes. And then, but to have this person going, man, I'm going to find this family. I can't believe that there was someone that was so brave during that time. And it's just, this motherfucker doesn't exist. I just think that'd be hilarious.
I mean, it's all over the place. And I know we've touched on it so much, but like, I really would love just somebody to go on a tour of Texas to find the real house where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre happened.
Yes, exactly. That kind of shit. It'd be great.
And then you could go to the real Bates Motel where Norman Bates really did his stuff. Just in case you don't know, they're inspired by the same story. Mm-hmm. A guy in Wisconsin. That's what I love the most about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is it's all based on a true story in Texas, based on a guy in Wisconsin. Can you get any more opposite of fucking Texas than Wisconsin? I mean, geez.
Oh, man.
But yeah, don't base your history on this, guys. Don't do it.
Don't. Please don't.
Anyway, I guess movie time? I guess?
Go.
Yeah.
Jastin, don't you dare fucking act excited.
Hungry like the wolf.
You son of a bitch. You son of a fucking bitch.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
You dick.
You still mad about it? Come on,
I'm
man.
still mad about it.
The whole song went through. You're not over it yet.
Hell no. You said hungry like a fucking wolf, you dickhead. Just acting like
you
just
like that song. You gonna play it after this is over.
Acting like you're just ready for this movie. Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about stuff with the movie The Wolfman from 2025. We're going to go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in both audio and video formats. And with all that, I guess we'll start with our resident werewolf expert. I guess I'm just going to say me because I've got a beard.
Fair enough.
And in some contexts, in some movies, that's all you need to be a wolfman. In the movie, That Thing You Do, he's wolfman because he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. So if he's a wolfman, I'm a wolf king or something. I don't fucking know. Anyway, listeners, I want you to think about every single time you've seen a werewolf on a movie screen. It's that, I guess. Think about every cool thing you've ever seen a werewolf do in a movie. There's not really any of that, though. But just all the generic other werewolf stuff. Of just them being there. That's this movie. I think I'm tapped. I don't know what else to say. Jastin, don't do that. Don't you fucking do that. Don't sit there and give this just like mouth agape. A what? That's all you have to say about this movie that just exists? Yeah, Jastin, I'm calling you out. If you've got more to say about it, then you fucking go. What do you got to say about this fucking movie?
What? Sterling, I just thought I'd get a better effort from you. I just thought you were going to try here.
I put in the effort they put in.
Oh, that's what's happening here. Just matching it up. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I said go, motherfucker,
Yes.
go.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Give us your like 9,000 word fucking review of this movie then.
Maybe I'm not as hungry as I thought. Maybe not like a wolf, but what's smaller than a wolf?
Man, why was this movie the equivalent of that quote from the New Mutants? Inside every person is two wolves, and I guess one's hungry sometimes. Or whatever the fuck that quote was. Why is this movie that?
It's not the deepest of cuts you've ever done, but it kind of feels deep. That movie was so like forgettable, like
because that's the only thing I remember from that
it's
fucking
really
movie.
forgettable, bro. And somehow you remembered it. I mean, that would be like somebody going,
all I
hey,
remember.
What did the 25th shit you took look like? I mean, I just wouldn't know. But you somehow knew.
Because that's all I remember
You knew
from
the
that
color
movie.
of it.
That movie went, the beginning of that movie is just narration going inside of every person is two wolves, and one's hungry and then one's docile or whatever the fuck that quote is. And then the movie happens and I'm like, what? Where the fuck does the wolves tie into this? I remember nothing else about the movie. I just remember it quotes something and then just says, fuck it for the rest of the movie.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure they quoted again at the end. Like, I could be wrong, but maybe that's why you remembered it. Because they had to say it twice.
I don't remember the end of that fucking movie. I remember the first 30 seconds. That's it.
Oh, man. Well, about this movie. I was kind of disappointed in it. I mean, this director, Lee Wannell, is that how you say his name? Wannell?
I think it's
How do you say
Wannell.
that?
Wannell.
Wannell.
Lee Wannell.
Okay. I should have known it was more elegant than that. But Mr. Wannell, man, the last movie I saw him do was Invisible Man. It was way better than this. It was so good. It was a nice new take on the Invisible Man character. He like did the metaphor of this abusive person being the Invisible Man, and I mean, that was just such a good movie. So I'm not saying that I came into this with high anticipation. I wasn't really sold when I saw previews of this. The previews looked kind of bland. It just kind of looked like your run-of-the-mill werewolf movie in the previews. But it was him. So I was holding on faith. I was like, you know what? But that Invisible Man, he took that's like a traditional monster, like a traditional horror villain thing. And he wrapped it up and rolled it up and changed it and shook it up and made something good. So you know what? I'm going to give this a chance. Maybe we'll get some more magic here with the wolf. And he tried. This movie it felt like it was trying to be more about the transformation into the wolf and less about the wolf. It was more about like, I guess, the despair or the tragedy of losing yourself and becoming something else. I think a lot of it, I think he was trying to capture that. And maybe that's not a bad premise. Maybe there's an interesting way to do that. But this wasn't, unfortunately. The way he told the story, it's not bad. It wasn't bad enough for me to say it was stupid or boring or anything like that, but it is very, very uninteresting. Like, even when something happened that seemed like it might be interesting, nothing further was done to it, or nothing further, the ideas weren't expounded upon in a way to make the concepts more interesting. And because so much time is spent with us seeing the transformation and the changing and what is happening to our protagonist, Wolfman person, by the time it gets to the end and there's a payoff and you get to the payoff is just, it's really predictable. Like 20 minutes into the movie, I knew what was going to, I just in my head predicted, okay, I think this is what it's going to wind up being. And we're going to have a confrontation with that. And that's probably going to be the movie. And sure enough, I guessed it right with no issues. Like, as pretty much when you see the opening scene, you kind of know where this is going. And nothing happens. There's no fun twist or any surprises or anything nuanced like with what we saw in Invisible Man. So much like how a lot of people are reviewing this and saying this is kind of a shell of a good werewolf movie, this felt like a director that was a shell of himself. Like, I know he can do better than this. I know he's done way better than this. So what happened here? So this movie is confusing to me, not because of the story, not because of anything that happened. It's straightforward as hell, but I'm questioning why we thought this was the best idea for this. And if we thought this was a good idea, why did we not attack this with some more interesting or some more ambitious means? It just felt so meh throughout it. And one of these actors I really like Julia Garner. I thought that she was great in Ozark. And, you know, I was kind of looking forward to seeing her in this movie. But again, back to that shell analogy, the script kind of makes her, she's not really able to exhibit her talents because of the way they have this character and the way they have this script. As a matter of fact, she plays a mother in this, but she's a mother making bad decisions so that we can stay where we are and continue to tell this kind of story. So that's weird. The last thing I'll say is, I guess there is this metaphor about like generational trauma and breaking the cycle of that. But, you know, no pun intended, it's so on the nose that it's too on the nose. It's so on the nose that there's nothing subtle about it. It's practically as obvious as we know that this person's going to turn into a wolf. Like, it's that on the nose. So no, there's nothing nice or subtle or interesting about that message either. So in the end, you just have a movie that's just hella mid. It's not poorly made. There's nothing about it that's terrible, but there is absolutely nothing about it that is amazing. Nothing at all. Nothing. So yeah, like you saying, think about all the cool wolf stuff. You know, I mean, hell, in Teen Wolf, when I've seen better transformations in Teen Wolf. I've seen better transformations in just other werewolf stuff. Like,
well, and that's what kills me about this is one of the things that werewolf movies inherently lean into is the body horror, is the transformation scene. The problem here is the transformation scene's 100 is an hour and 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying, Jastin. Yeah. It's technically supposed to be about generational trauma. It just never gets there. Like,
no, it doesn't.
And I get what you're saying too, because like, yeah, it's The Invisible Man. This guy also did a movie called Upgrade, which is a fantastic movie. If you ever want to see what Venom should be as a movie, go watch Upgrade. It's a fantastic movie. This is also one of the guys that wrote fucking Saw. It was him and James Wan that wrote Saw. He is the reporter. He's the camera, the photographer / reporter guy that's trapped in the room in Saw with what's his name, Carrie Yules or whatever. And he's that guy. So it's one of those things, like, he's got the chops, and he knows how to take a serious topic like domestic violence and underpin a monster movie with those things, because we saw him do it. It's just, you take so long to make this movie end up being what it is that you lose it. It's just, the whole movie is just building to that. And then it's almost like it also says, no matter what, generational trauma wins. You're like, oh, okay. Well, that sucks. Like, it's unfortunate because you kind of got beat to the same thing by Encanto.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of did. And like you said, the idea is just not complete. And we have a child in this, but there was no way to make the child line up with the traumas of the generations or anything like that. It's like, it's the idea is there, but literally it is there. Just like existing and shit. Like motherfuckers, I don't know, all riding on a train and everybody's just sitting. Like, it's not, but it's not thriving. It's not excelling. It's just sitting. It's existing there. But it's not an idea that is thriving or that you feel is vibrant in the storytelling or the narrative. It's just kind of sitting there. And then we do some typical wolf stuff and the movie's over. That's how it feels. But anyway, I'll stop yapping in this section. We'll get into it more. But yeah, so I was just disappointed, man, just given the last effort like this from this director. And I know that sometimes with these movies and stuff, nobody throws a perfect game. I know sometimes you just, or hits a perfect at bat. Sometimes you just strike out. And unfortunately, this was a miss, man. I think he thought he had something here, and we just didn't quite hit it, man. We just didn't quite hit it. A good idea on paper that just, I don't think, translated to a very good movie.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, mid is very much just the way to describe this film all around. Like, I think the acting was fine. To be fair, like, it would have been a worse movie with actors that were not as good, but they're not really doing anything in this movie. They're just kind of, like you said, they're just there. They're just there to be there. Like, there wasn't anything offensive about their roles, but there just wasn't any development for them as characters, really. Like, I will say though that, like, also a lot of their backstory, which is already vague, is unnecessary to the development of the plot as well. Like, they could have replaced their backstory with any other backstory, and it wouldn't really have changed the outcome of the movie, pretty much. And then, like, I found it's a very minimal cast, and that's fine for what they're doing in this movie. But again, like we talked about, it's not really a spoiler. Like, the this all takes place in one night, you know, and I don't think that I realized going into this movie that it was that, because again, I'm also used to it's a progression, you know, it happens over a little bit of time is when this transformation takes place and all of these things. And it's, you know, it's just the setup they give for that, I think, hurt it more than it helped it for the most part with that. But like the pacing of it is pretty quick because they kind of just jump right into it. So I guess I'll give it that. Like it feels like after like the second act, or maybe like the first 20 minutes, kind of like what you were talking about of the movie, like it just sort of keeps that same pace the entire rest of the way through. And so it moves quickly and all of that, but they're just, because of that, I don't really think that there were any real moments of tension. I think they wanted there to be in a lot of the scenes that they were doing, but there's no real tension in this film. Like, again, I'm somebody who can very easily be like, oh no, what's going to happen? You know, but nothing about this made me feel like I needed to be afraid of what I was about to see. So that's just kind of the unfortunate thing of how quickly they pace it and how much they just really, they don't do, there's no oomph behind anything that they do in this movie. And then also just like, as far as the story in general, that like we said, there's nothing super exciting about it. There's some things that they kind of did well, but other things felt very unnecessary as part of like our main character's transformation and things like that. Like, and like what you said, Jastin, a good amount of it was also predictable. They don't really linger too long on any like one moment or scene, which I guess maybe somewhat alleviates the fact that it's pretty predictable, but I don't know that that's a good thing. Like, it's kind of like, it's real hit or miss on if that is actually a good thing about this movie. So it's very, very much a middle of the road movie.
I mean, damn, I guess you guys did have a lot more to say than me. Recommendations and scores.
Yeah.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
Heather, keep it going.
I mean, not really. I don't really recommend it. Like, there's nothing. Like what Sterling said, if you've seen any werewolf movie, you've probably seen a better version of what this was. And again, like, I like Lee Whannell too, for the most part. Like, I think he's a great writer. He writes a lot of good stuff. He wrote a lot of the Insidious stuff, which I haven't seen all of them, but the stories aren't terrible. You know what I mean? Like, and he wrote a decent amount of the Saw movies. And I think he wrote this one. I think he wrote Invisible Man. Like, he is a great writer and he's a pretty good director when he wants to be. But yeah, like, I can't say that like, oh, this is that movie of his that you need to watch. It's one of those where it feels like you don't even know what his vision was with it. It almost feels like they were just making a movie to make a movie. And there's just no, like, it didn't need to be made because it doesn't give you any new revelations about anything going on with this story or anything that you've seen before. Like, there's just no point in it more than anything else. Is it the worst movie or the worst acting I've seen? No, by no stretch. But it's just so middle of the road that it's just flying under the radar because of that for me. So no, I don't think it's necessarily worth watching. My score, again, like I said, it's a very middle of the road. So I'm just giving it a straight up 50 static ECB radios out of 100.
Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, it's just, man, I mean, do you have to see this? No. Did being in the theater enhance the experience or anything like that? It really didn't. Man, on one end, I appreciate the effort to try to do the Wolfman from a different angle. I just wish that the execution was as ambitious as this idea to try to showcase it in this way. I mean, I understood the idea, and I almost wish it would have worked, because I think it could have been a really powerful movie about generational trauma and losing yourself, and sort of the body horror, like what you're talking about, Sterling, and the tragedy of losing yourself and the people you love and everything. You know, if it was executed right, this could have been a very powerful film. But because it wasn't executed right, it's just not. And even though you get the message, it's not conveyed in a powerful enough way. So really, when I look at what's good about it, there might have been a scene or two that I could say was a good scene, or like an effective scene. But I don't think there are any great scenes. I mean, the beginning of this, it starts pretty well. I think the beginning maybe might have been pretty strong, or at least one of the stronger elements of the movie. But even then, it's not like a great beginning or anything. You know, maybe it's an effective attention grabber, and maybe there's a scene or two in the second act, in the middle, and maybe a scene or two in the third act where you could say, okay, that wasn't a bad scene. But none of this adds up. But like, none of this gets you to feel anything beyond, I just saw a film. Like it's just nothing beyond, like, you know, it's kind of that thing we say all the time. We're like, how was the movie? And we go, well, it's a movie. That's sort of what it feels like. It's a wolf movie. I mean, it has things that a wolf movie has. You know, it has a transformation. It has somebody struggling with becoming a wolf. It has some gore and some jump scares. It has those things. But I feel like it just, but really, none of it added up to a great experience for me. So I don't know. Yeah, this is one I can't recommend you go see. This is one you can wait on. This is one where if you got nothing to watch and it's there on a streaming list, maybe, I don't know. And even then, maybe you could probably find some other monster movie that's better. But all I want to say is that this director has done better. And if you haven't seen Invisible Man, watch that instead. You know, if I could recommend, or the movie that Sterling's talking about that he said was pretty good, you know, watch that instead. Watch these other films that this director has done, because this just feels like a miss. And this is like you tuning in, watching that famous basketball player for the first time, and it's just his worst game ever. Like, this would be like tuning in and watching your first game is a Kobe Bryant game where he only scored like 13 points and he was missing every shot. You know, it's not a real, it's a bad game. It's not really a reflection of his greatness. And this, I think, is the same way. This was just a bad game, man. This was a bad game for this director. This was just a bad patch. He was just in a slump, like that kid said in Superman 3. Come on, Superman. You can snap out of it. You're just in a slump.
Whoa, you're saying I'm doing
Evil
deep
Superman.
cuts talking about New Mutants, and you're bringing up fucking Superman 3?
I know.
Super
I have
deep
to
cut.
match you. I have to match you, bro. This is a competition. You know that, right? We're in a competition. So, yeah, it was like that. So that's what I want to say. Mr. Winnell, you're just in a slump, man. You can get out of it. I believe in you. The next one's got to be better than this one, right? But I'm sorry, bro. The Wolf Man ain't it. So with that being said, I'm about where you are, Heather. I'll give it 51 arm-eating good times. arm eating meh times out of 100.
Hell no, I don't recommend this movie. Hell no. I mean, there's just so many things about this movie to me that are amiss. It just doesn't do anything for me. I mean, there's no, you kind of lose the body horror, which is a classic, iconic element of werewolf movies. I mean, An American Werewolf in London, like, come on, that's what makes that movie iconic, is that transformation scene. It's fucking glorious. I mean, fuck, go watch An American Werewolf in Paris. That garbage fest of a fucking movie. Go watch that. You at least get some werewolf shit in that movie. I mean, if this movie's about generational trauma, I mean, it kind of has the worst message in the end, and I'll get into that in spoilers. Because the way this movie says to get past generational trauma is not good. It's kind of a bad thing. It kind of feels like that would lead to more generational trauma if your out is the end of this movie. I mean, just so much of this movie just didn't matter. Wasn't interesting. I slightly disagree with you, Heather, about the pacing, because to me, this was like my first couple of days in boot camp. This was just hurry up and wait. They were just like, hey, do some shit. Now we're going to sit here for 20 minutes. And then we got to go do some shit. Now we're going to sit here for another 20 minutes. I just was like, okay. You most of our listeners should know this reference, but I know you too will. I mean, this is kind of like a worse version of the Judge Roy Scream or whatever at Six Flags Over Texas. You know, that's like 4 hills. It's that. I mean, I guess it's fine in like that kind of old school way, but also you've got roller coasters that go upside down, backwards, go like fucking 85 miles an hour, go through like a Batwing turn and all that other shit. Yeah, it's 2024 and you're saying, Wolfman, I'm expecting groundbreaking shit. I'm expecting you to try to recapture the magic of the original Universal Wolfman in 2025. You know what I mean? Like, give me I don't know. Maybe I was just expecting you to do what you did with your last fucking movie when you took a classic Universal monster and made a movie based on that. Maybe that's unfair to expect you to achieve the heights you've done. So no, I don't recommend it. And I, in good conscience, can't give this a score better than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I at least thought that there was stuff to like about that. There's like 2 things I liked in this movie. That was like the werewolf vision, and it happened twice. So it's actually unfair to say I liked 2 things. I liked one thing that happened twice. But, I mean, that was cool as shit, though. The werewolf vision was cool as shit. You know what made no sense? The werewolf hearing. This motherfucker's downstairs and hears a spider on the wall in the closet like it is a fucking war drum. How the fuck could you understand anything from that point on? You would just be constantly disoriented by any noise ever. If you could hear a spider walk on a wall and it sounded like a fucking Blue Man Group concert. You're telling me if just somebody screamed that it wouldn't just make you want to fall down and die like you're Daredevil around a fucking air horn? Like, come on. I give this 44. I guess this is a werewolf movie out of 100. Spoilers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I know Jastin hates it when I do this, but I'm jumping to the fucking end of this movie. So they're saying the way you get past generational trauma is by having your wife kill you. No, okay.
Damn.
Like, I could think of some better things, I guess. But that's what this movie's
one way
saying.
to stop it.
I mean, but is it?
Just stop my ass.
But that's the thing is, are you really stopping it? Because I'm pretty sure that daughter's going to get some childhood trauma because of this. You're switching the type of generational trauma, but you're keeping it going. I mean, that is the weirdest conclusion to this movie. Because, like, there's nothing like, and I get what you're saying, Heather. So many of these things just make no sense. Like, do you really need that scene at the beginning of the movie where they're just like, our marriage is in trouble? What does that add to this movie whatsoever? I know it's not a long scene, whatever, but you filmed it. At least have it matter any other time in the story. Just
it never came up again.
Any other time. Like, is that what led that woman to making every terrible decision ever? Because you know what's also not good for generational trauma? Your partner allowing you to just continue it with your child and just placating it constantly. That's not a good message either. I mean, that's just like really going like, man, my husband's real fucked up because of the things his dad did to him. It's okay, honey. Your dad will get over it soon. He's just having a little bout of trauma. I'm going to make sure you stay right next to him this whole movie. Because that is what matters. I don't understand any of the decisions in this movie. At a certain point, I understand that they didn't know what a Wolfman was, I guess. But at a certain point, when your husband is physically transforming and also trying to eat his arm, maybe you go, I'm going to get my daughter away from him. Maybe. Let's just argue that he doesn't have Wolfman disease. Let's just say he's got, I don't know, movie-itis. Let's call it movie-itis. He's physically transforming. That is some plague shit. You nope the fuck away from that. If somebody gets a scratch and physically starts transforming within hours, you assume that is a devil plague and you get the fuck away from it. You don't go cuddle with it. You don't rub it. You go away. You drive down the road, you call a doctor, and have some ambulance people get murdered by the Wolfman. You don't stay there. It makes no sense. And like, I mean, I also just don't understand the timeline of this movie. Because you've got the kid at the beginning of the movie that's him. That kid's what, 9? And they're like 13 years later. And they've got like a 10-year-old little girl. Did he have that kid when he was 12?
I think it said 30 years later.
Oh, did it? I don't know what the fuck
I
this
could have
movie
sworn it
says.
said 30.
Whatever. That makes more sense. But I saw 13 and I was just like, I do not get what timeline we are doing here.
The math does not math.
I'm very
The
confused.
math isn't mathing.
Because this guy's like, I ran away when I was 18. And I guess I fucked this girl and we had a magic 10-year-old baby. I was very confused. I was so lost. But like, what was also with that scene before they fought about their marriage when she's just like on the phone with her boss and he's like, can you go somewhere else? Why? You're fucking like chopping a salad. Dude,
Yeah, it was a poor attempt at trying to say there's like frustration between
Tension.
them.
Yeah.
but do you need peace and quiet to chop a salad?
He's he's a foodie, you know, he needs that concentration.
Yeah, motherfucker, go work in a kitchen and try to get peace and quiet while you're prepping a damn thing. Like, it's weird. Like, and I get it because it's supposedly, like you said, Jastin, it's that generational trauma. It's like him, like, you know, it's those aspects leaking into things. It's the same reason why he had the reaction, you know, when the girl was like on the thing. It was just like, no, you don't do that. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just being a protective dad. You know, kind of like how his dad was and stuff. Like, I get it. But like, it just all of it felt like a reach, especially when at the end of the movie, your solution to ending everything is just going, I need to accept to end this. You need to kill me. Oh. Also, what was it? What was with the scene with the mushrooms at the beginning of the movie? Did you not think he was going to eat mushrooms at some point to stop himself? Because they make a real big point about those death cap mushrooms.
Yeah,
and those
focus on
also
it.
never show
Yeah,
back
they
up.
could have.
Anything.
They could have circled back to that.
Pretty much every single thing from the beginning of this movie just gets forgotten the second they go back. They just forget all of it.
It reminds me, with the mushroom thing, it reminds me of Borderlands when it's like, here, I got you this tea, and like really focused in about like giving her a cup of tea, and then it just didn't mean anything at all. It's that kind of thing.
Oh man, because I thought that's how they were going to show maybe some of the things. Like maybe he realized something was wrong and all this other stuff, and he was like worried about the urges he's having. So he goes and tries to eat a mushroom, and it just doesn't kill him because he's Wolfman now. That would have been cool.
Or maybe instead of him getting shot, what if they're up there, they hide up there, and he's climbing up there, and you know they got the gun, and what if they're like waiting on him to climb up, but he never climbs up, and they're like, what happened? They looking around, it's all quiet, and they find that he has eaten those mushrooms and killed himself. What if he just ended himself because he didn't want to end his family or something? Maybe the human part of him reached through and he ended himself so he wouldn't have to end them. Something.
Yeah, that's fair, but also that's another bad conclusion to this movie because it's like, hey, in general trauma, kill yourself. It's still just as bad to me if that's the route, but I get it because they make such a big deal of the mushrooms and just never again. It's like if on the cover of a Mario game was Mario jumping after a mushroom and there's just no mushrooms in the game. I just didn't understand that. And, you know, I get that they're trying to make this like a weird disease, what they call it, like hill fever or whatever. And then they were like, yeah, but the indigenous peoples call it wolf face disease or whatever. That's a little weird, guys. And then, but apparently there can only be one. Like, I know the dad went and got it, but did the dad kill the other wolf man that gave it to him? That camper that was running around? It's just weird. And then also, they come across his old childhood buddy or whatever. And he's just like in that deer blind. And he's like, yeah, you know we don't like being out here at night. How the fuck was he going to get back? It was hella nighttime. Before they got to that, before they even got to the house, it was hella nighttime. How was he planning to get back?
I asked that question too. Yeah.
I mean, plus it was really close to nighttime then too. I don't get this. I just don't understand. Also, it's a weird premise in your movie. If it also could have ended in the first 20 minutes, if he had just ran over him. then your movie's just not a thing. If he had just not careened off the side and done a Jurassic Park, the movie's just over. Because he just careens into him and he just goes, oh man, I ran over this wolf guy. Oh wait, this wolf guy's my dad. Credits.
You would have enjoyed that more.
Hey, at least would have been somewhat surprising if that's how this movie went. I'd at least been surprised a little bit. Or they could have done the thing where he's like, oh, it was my dad. And he like holds his dad's hand and accidentally cuts himself on the wolf talons and then becomes a wolf man. Based on so many things in this movie, I just don't understand how the next scene happens. Like, there's the scene, like I said, where he hears a spider crawling on the wall but the dad werewolf doesn't hear them go out the door, start a car, jump a car. Doesn't hear any of that, but then shows up. Like, what? And just, if all it takes is a little scratch, how the fuck did no one else get scratched any of the 97 times they're fucking grabbed by fucking talons? I don't understand what they were really trying to do in this movie. If you really want it to be something, I think that's why you've got to add you got to go back into more of some of the werewolf lore to really make this successful. Have it be a gradual thing over time. Have him, not only being back at the house is what kind of helps, be the thing, and he starts transforming and all this other stuff. But you also have the symbolism as the full moon as just trigger. That maybe you're over generational trauma when you're out of a certain situation, but when you're brought back into it, it brings back old feelings. It brings back some of that trauma. It reminds you, it re-triggers stuff. And that's built into, werewolf lore. Full moon, same thing. Like, it all can kind of tie into each other in so many ways. And instead, you just ignore it. Like, the things that are there that are just built for what you're doing. Also, I just realized I never said the CineScore of this movie while I was staring at this. So I want to do that real quick. You guys are supposed to catch me.
My bad.
48.
Yes, it's a bad game for all of us.
It's a 48. But yeah, like, then on top of that too, like, the Wolfman is just, the design is just so generic. It is just Wolfman. They didn't even go full werewolf. They just went Wolfman. A wolf-ish man. A kind of wolfy man.
A man wolf, perhaps.
A mannish wolf?
A wolfish man. Also, something that I don't know what reminded me of it. The scene when like he has to like write to her what's going on, and he writes on there that he's dying. I'm pretty sure in the trailer it said changing is what the piece of paper said. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
I mean, I don't know. If somebody I know catches a disease and they say they're dying all within one night, like I said, I'm just assuming it is a plague and I'm leaving. So I'm also telling you, if you're ever around me in the wild and you get sick, I'm noping the fuck out of there. So don't trust me if you get sick in the woods. Also, don't trust me if I'm in the woods. I don't want to be in the woods. I'm not a woods person. So if I'm with you in the woods, also just think that that's weird too. But also know, if you get sick, I'm just leaving. Because I'm going to assume from this movie, you're a wolf man. And I've watched enough movies. I don't deal with that shit. I mean, I guess the one other positive thing I'll say outside of the wolf vision, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the child actor wasn't the worst thing ever. Child actor was probably the most reasonable person ever. You know? And I did like that little joke they had of that she's a mind reader. That's a nice little sentimental moment. But wasn't enough to actually matter in the end of this movie. Heather, what about you? What are some spoilery thoughts you had?
Yeah, and like actually, one thing I did want to mention was that thing about the like mind reading, because I did think it was a good sentimental moment, but I do actually feel like if there was anything that kind of tied in okay with it, it was actually that at the end, because you know, like there's this, they have the ongoing thing, and her response every time is always, you're thinking I love my little girl, right? And then like, and it is a cute little thing, but it worked that at the end, like, because you feel like, oh, they actually did have a bond and they were very connected, that she did actually understand him outside of just that joke. Like, she did actually really have a bond with him to where she was able to say, oh, he's telling you that he wants this to be over. And I think it just kind of made sense for it to be her that picked up on that, because of the whole like estranged relationship between him and his wife. So I do actually think that they pulled that around better than other elements in this movie. but yeah, I agree. I think it was a nice little sentimental thing that they did. It was one of the things I was going to say was kind of a positive about the movie.
Well,
so
I like what that posits, though, is that their relationship is so strained that she couldn't possibly understand that her husband wanted to die.
that's true. Yeah.
I don't think
no,
even if you had a healthy relationship, you're just going to sit there and go, my husband wants to die.
Yeah. That, you know what? That's fair. But for the sake of the bond between the father and daughter, it worked, I guess, you know? And like, again, to just also go back to how like unnecessary their backstory was. I mean, they could have been brother and sister. That could have been his niece. I realize that the main point of the relationship is the father and daughter having this strong connection. It could have been that situation. It could have been somebody he was dating. It could have been, you know, a couple like going on a honeymoon and bringing their daughter, or it could have just been a family that's doing fine that was going on vacation. Like it didn't have to be this like thing of, you know, we're not doing well, so we need to go away together because my father just died and we can go look at his stuff together, or whatever it was they were doing. Like, and then the fact that he also said in that scene with her, like, yeah, let's just spend the summer together. It made me feel like that meant this movie was going to take place over a longer period of time. And I think that's something that made me feel that way too. But I guess like the one thing I will say that was kind of a nice parallel is like when the scene when they're doing the wolf vision and he can't understand her, she can't understand him because he's losing his human side. I did think that was a nice parallel to the fact that like they're very, very distant from each other. They're not communicating well. They're not understanding each other. I thought that was a cool parallel. Maybe I'm giving the movie more credit than I should, but that's kind of the parallel that I made between that.
I mean, maybe you're right on with that. I just thought it was so fucking far off. It wasn't a thing.
Yeah. I mean, but like it's also with something that bothered me though, is it was the super hearing or whatever, like that you guys were talking about. Like, I'm just like every scene that they had where other people were talking, he just either couldn't hear them. It was very faded out or whatever. And I'm like, I don't like how they did that, because in this whole thing about his transformation and how he's turning into this wolf person, early signs of it that we see in the movie is he can smell really well, when he's like, oh, what is this, this smell of this meat or whatever he found. And then the hearing, like those were two early signs of it, but they also don't really follow up on that at any other point in the movie. Like if his hearing was that good or his smelling was that good, first of all, I feel like he would have heard or smelled the other wolf around, and they would have had a little bit more of a heads up, like where he was when he was coming and all of that. But they didn't really do that with this. So I was kind of like, that could have at least been something where you feel like they're showing effort what they were trying to do, but they didn't really do that. So I just like, because his transformation really is the entire night, pretty much, I just think that they could have done more building up to it, or things that started out as the early parts being added still into the end when he's even more transformed. But they just kind of were lacking again in the whole transformation part of this one. And then also the thing about his dad being the other wolf man. I didn't hate it, but it was just predictable. And kind of, I think that's what you were referring to, Jastin, about in the first like few minutes, you know where this is going. Like it, yeah, at a certain point, like I knew it was going to be his dad, and it just, I think that would have mattered more and been more impactful if these characters were more specifically important. But the way these characters are written, they are not developed. They are not fleshed out. So this being his dad, it doesn't really like pack a punch, because we don't really know that much about these people other than that first few minutes of the movie leading up to it. Like it doesn't really hit the way that I think they wanted it to. Like, I think that they wanted that to be the big, oh my gosh, moment of this movie. And I'm just like, yeah, well, obviously we saw that coming miles away. And even when he had to kill his dad, like, you don't feel like he has that, like, even grief doing it. And you know what I mean? It just, they just did things, but they didn't follow up on like giving you any emotion after anything was happening. And again, like, I think Julia Garner, who plays the wife, she is a good actress. I agree. But yeah, she can't really showcase anything here. And also it's a little disappointing because I feel like any reaction she had to anything that happened during his transformation, she was not reacting in an appropriate way. Like, you know, she's standing there on the other side of the room watching him chew his arm off. And she's just like, okay, definitely something's wrong with you. Like, that's about the amount that you feel like she thought in that moment. And you're like, I would be shaking and like freaking out, probably trying to ease my way out of the door to lock it and get my child out of there. It just was, any reaction she had felt very like not really a reaction. Very
Heather,
monotone.
I mean, their relationship was strained, and they told you that
You're
at the
right.
beginning of the movie. So when you're when your relationship is strained with someone and they're eating themselves or anything like that, you just don't care as much when the relationship
like another
is
day,
strained.
another bad day.
You're just still kind of mad at him. You know what I mean? So it's like he eating himself, but you know, still kind of fucking though.
I mean,
Yeah.
Why did she have the reaction of, oh, he's eating his arm? Thank God. It's just, at least it's not COVID. Like,
Yeah.
why was that her response? Like, just like could have been worse. Could have gotten bird flu.
Crisis averted. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's
At least,
I don't know.
at least we don't have to mask up for this. That's how she was acting. It's just such a weird, like,
Just really dismissive, like, oh, he's eating himself the Roman way, not the Nazi way, you know, something like that.
at least it's just a Roman arm eating, not a German one. Ooh,
Yeah, not a
bullet dodged.
Yeah, right. Like,
I was worried he turned into a Nazi self-cannibal. He's just a fascist Italian one.
right. But like, yeah, it just the setup for this, like, we don't really get much of a preamble to this. And so the setup for the moments that they want to be big or huge in this don't play the way that they want them to. It's just like, you almost feel like how we've talked about in other movies where you're like, there's got to be a different version of this, right? With like a lot of cutout scenes or something. Like, I feel like maybe this is one of those where it's like, if there's an extended version or something where we get more of their relationship, even if it was like on their car ride there, they're having, their daughter's asleep, they're having a conversation about the two of them, and like, you know what, I'm going to try. Let's have this as a refresher to start over. Or like, because they kind of are supposed to be alluding to the fact also that the mom and the daughter don't really have much of a relationship. You could have spoken to that more. They could have said something about like, I'm glad you're always around. Like, I just don't know what it would be if it was just me and her, or something to where you feel like it's going to amount to anything at the end. And like, yeah, they did the whole full circle. Like, it started out with them in that place and, his dad killed the wolf thing. And then at the end, they're in the same place, I think, right? I think it's the same place where she has to shoot Blake. I thought it was the same location. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looked the same. The scene looked the same, at least. Maybe that was what the point was.
As the one from when he was with his dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming so. Like, that's the same.
Yeah.
Deer blind.
Yeah. And so that was their way of trying to make it full circle. But again, like, they just, none of the things that they want you to care about, you do care about, because you're just like, I mean, these are just people in a scene in a movie that we have no connection to. We don't feel like we can relate to any of these because they don't give you enough to really draw yourself into their world or into this world that is Wolfman. Like, it tells you these things are happening. You see some of these things happening, and that's it. There's no emotional connection to anything. And yeah, and I think that's why it is so middle of the road, because you're like, there's things happening and they want you to be sad about this little girl losing her dad. They want you to be sad about their strained relationship and the fact that, the wife had to kill her husband. But at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. Like, there's no way that it's not going to be a thing. And I guess I will say, I appreciate that they didn't do the whole, like, somehow the one other person in this movie, his wife, was like, you know what? I think that I have a way to maybe cure him, and like trying to figure that out. Like, at least they didn't go that route of, we somehow miraculously have a way to, cure him, when this was never said anywhere else in the movie that it could happen. So I guess props for that. But in general, like, it just leaves you wanting more, actually, or it just leaves you wanting none of it, because it just, you don't have any connection to the movie to care what's happening with anything they do.
I mean, I'll say this. I guess one thing this movie did okay is the fact that, like, at least they weren't like having marital problems at the beginning of the movie because there was an affair. Like, that is just such a common trope. Like, if I'm ever going to trust you again, you have to go help me clean up my dad's house or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
At least they didn't do that, I suppose. As a slight positive. I'm not changing my score because I just thought of something that's nice, because it's still just as bad. That does not change anything in the movie, really. I'm just saying, I guess they didn't do that, so kudos. Maybe. Anyway, Jastin, what about you?
No, what everybody's saying is pretty on point. Like, it's just, man, I just wish there was a way to put this all together and line things up better for more effective storytelling. Like, at the beginning of this movie, you have this opening scene And I think that they did at least a good job of there being some tension. And you've got this father and son out there, and he's yelling at him at times and saying, I'm only doing this to protect you and all of that kind of stuff. And I want you to, but he's got, and he's kind of yelling at this kid. And the kid doesn't seem to be doing very much, but this dad is just kind of yelling at him. And so you're like, okay, this dad is a little crazy. He's a little, he seems, some of this yelling at the child doesn't seem warranted. But he said, I'm doing this to protect you, son. I'm doing this to try to protect you. And then they wind up being chased by this thing, and they're, all of that happens. And I thought at the very least, it was an effective scene to kind of establish, okay, this is the father and everything like that. So it did a good job kind of establishing his sort of relationship with his father. And you could see some of the abusive tendencies and things like that. The problem is that, like you said, Heather, that's all we get. And we don't get to figure anything else out about the father. I thought once we got to the house, there'd be some notes, or maybe he was keeping a journal, or maybe he was doing tape recordings talking about, I'm tracking this thing. I'm going to find him. I'm going to, like they set it all up because he was in that, when he was in that radio room communicating with this other person and going, I'm going to find this thing. Don't you want to protect him? Don't you want to protect your kids? Don't you want to protect? So everything was about this obsession with protection. And I get the thing that, sometimes you can be so overprotective in everything and not want your people you care about to get hurt. You wind up actually hurting them. Like there was even a line like that. He said, sometimes you want to protect, I want to protect you so much from scars. I wind up scarring you. It had all those messages in there, but the way this was told was so ineffective. And I almost wonder if this movie needed a wife. I wonder if this would have been more effective if this was just a father and a daughter going on this trip. We think that the dad is dead. So daughter, you're going to come with me. Maybe there was a wife, but maybe she passed away or something. So you just got a father and a daughter dealing with this. And you could still have some of those, I'm trying to protect you messages. And, I'm trying to, and we see that he's instilling some of these abusive things we saw at the beginning of the movie. But maybe if we didn't have a wife, and it was just a mother and a daughter. When we go to this house, though, we need to find out more about what the dad was doing. We need to understand more about this obsession with finding this wolf man and stuff like that. Like, I wish we were learning more about what the dad was doing before everything just goes awry. And and just back to this movie, instead of just changing it though, but like, even when we got to where we were going with the house and everything, I wish that we had gotten to the house and just had some scenes learning about these characters. Like if we had just got to the house first and been finding out what the dad left behind, and we're finding out about that, and we're finding out about him and his wife and their strained relationship, and maybe they're talking about it in more detail, or maybe interactions with the daughter are happening, and you've got the wife over here trying to connect but unable to, and then you've got the father over here being too overprotective and trying to teach her some things. Like I just feel, but instead of having that incident with the father Wolfman right away, maybe if we had waited and done some more character development things, maybe that might have helped. And then then maybe we're out doing something, trying to find maybe we're going to try to find this amazing place. He said, if you just look out here at nature, it's going to change you or whatever. They had that ending scene right at the end of the movie. Maybe we're driving to try to find that place. And that's when we have the wreck with the wolf man and all this shit happens. We have to flee back to the house that we've already been in and we already know is there. And then all of this ensues. But I don't know. I just think it was lacking some character development things. We knew a little bit, but we didn't know enough. to care about it. Same thing with him and the wife. We knew the relationship was strained because they said it, but we didn't see enough. We didn't see anything. We didn't see any strain to really help understand the strain. Was it a lack of communication? Was it, we don't even know why. We just know they're strained, but we don't know why. And it's not, you can't, and again, just show me, don't tell me. It's not enough to just tell me. If you're not going to come up with some interesting ways to show it, then it makes me go, what's the point of it? And I don't know, maybe you would have gotten more attention out of this, or it would have felt like more of a scary situation if you have a father turn into this wolf while trying to take care of his daughter, but at the same time, knowing he's running out of time and maybe trying to instill these things in his daughter, but doing it the wrong way. And then maybe as he's transforming, he's fighting it, but he's realizing, man, maybe I'm not, doing this thing with my daughter the right way. And maybe before it's too late, he instills something in her that enables her to survive after he's dead and the father wolf man is dead. Maybe the daughter is able to, with those things he instilled in her, maybe she's able to get out of this situation, survive. And maybe we see a newspaper at the end saying that, daughter survives horrible ordeal or something like that. And it's like, damn, he got fucked up and he was a wolf and everything. But you know what? His daughter survived. He instilled some good things in her and none of the bad things or some shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like if the story's going to be generational trauma, let's just focus on that. The wife feels like extra. The wife feels like she doesn't fit. You know what I mean? Other than our relationship is strained or we need another adult there because this adult is becoming a wolf. That's what it felt like. But she doesn't fit in the generational trauma narrative to me.
Except outside of enabling it.
Yeah.
Which it kind of makes it fall flat, as a lesson. I like what you're saying, though, Jastin. I like the idea of it being just the dad and the little girl. I like the idea of doing that, but it takes place over a month or 2 months or whatever.
Yeah,
Because you can have it be, like I said, lean into the werewolf lore. They make it to the house. He's, trying to tell his daughter about his dad and why it didn't work out because he left and all this stuff. And he's trying to tell her things. And then when he's they go out to show him something, that's when he gets scratched then. And then over the next month before the next full moon is when things, he's, maybe starting to show some more characteristics of things, he's turning into his dad and all of these things. I think lean it, have them have a strained relationship, have her be slightly older, all of these things. And
make her a little older. Yeah.
And then that way, as he's turning and all this other stuff, you could have that other werewolf show up then and have them fight and have him kill it and all of these things. But then he starts becoming one. And, his transformation at that point is going a little slower because it's his first one. Whereas the other one, full moon, bam, done. Full moon takes place over a couple of days. So it's his maybe, is a little bit on the first night, and then it kind of goes into this thing. And yeah, she would kill her dad. And it's not necessarily the best rationale of, like I said, ending generational trauma. But it's showing that you were the one that's responsible for ending the trauma that you're going to pass on. You know what I mean? You can at least argue that in that instance, you have to be the one that kills the trauma your parents gave you.
Yeah, I like that. It's got to end with the person, not allowing that to control you, not allowing that to control what you do, and maybe there's a way where she could kill him, but it'd be out of love, kind of what they tried to do anyway. But it all ties back to that whole generational thing and stopping it. It's up to the living people to do something about the trauma that has been passed down. Ultimately that responsibility falls on the parent and the child. Maybe there was a way to link all that together. And you might have been able to build more tension and stuff because you got this young person in this situation and the dad is doing all this crazy shit. I don't want to leave my dad. I want to try to take care of my dad. But at the same time, and maybe the dad is like, you should leave. Like, just leave me. And she won't, or something, like, and maybe that's what it is. He's just thinking survive, survive. And she's like, no, I'm here for you because I love you. And, maybe there's a disconnect even with that. Like,
well, okay, that's a real easy solve. When the transformation starts happening, like I said, it's on the second full moon, whatever. He starts getting it. He starts feeling like he's changing, all that stuff. He tells her to leave. And she's like, no, I gotta stay. And he's like, leave. And she starts leaving. That's when the other werewolf shows up, prevents her from leaving.
Okay, there you go.
And then he has to intervene to save her. But then after that, he's full on transformed at that point. And now he can't control it. But then at the end of these cycles, like say it's towards the end of the weekend and all this other stuff, and it's still full moon and all this other stuff, but maybe it's like the moon's kind of setting. And so he's less animalistic at that point and all this other stuff. You can still have it be the same thing of, you have to kill me. You have to end this. So it's like you said, Jastin, both the father and the daughter come to that conclusion of, we have to end this together. You can't let my bullshit transfer to you. You've got to stop it. But like, I'm going to help you stop it. But like, so kill me, end this.
Yes. Yeah. And you might have had a way better movie than this, and I think some of those scenes would have been more tension filled because you would have had this young daughter trying to fend off, and her dad helping. Dad is, going through this transformation. So he's all fucked up, but they're both still trying to fend from this wolf. You could have had some encounters with Father Wolfman but I feel like would have been scarier because it would have just been two people trying to survive in this house and barricade and then doing all of this shit.
You also could have had a werewolf v werewolf fight in werewolf vision.
Yep.
Can't tell me that wouldn't have been some cool shit.
Yeah. And I think if they had discovered some more stuff about the father and what he was doing, or about this obsession with finding this thing and protecting and stuff like that, I just think there was a better way to tie all of these messages together into something very powerful. But what he wound up doing, though, was he just, like we said, those some of these things, the strained marriage, the stuff is just not well developed. And so then when the scratch happens and he starts becoming this wolf, I think you were spot on, Heather, with the whole, when he had the wolf vision and he can't hear them and he can't communicate. And I think it was trying to show what happens, like when that generational shit takes over. You become unrecognizable. You can't recognize other people. You can't seem to communicate with other people because this is something going on inside of you and it's killing you, but you don't fully understand it. Like there are some powerful things in that. And the one scene where he kind of can't understand her, she can't understand him, and he kind of leans up against the wall and everything goes dark and he's kind of there by himself. Like, I get the message of that, the feeling of alone, or it's like he's going through this on the inside and he feels and he can't really communicate what's going on. It's taking over, it's consuming him, and he's alone and all that stuff. There was some, I get what he was trying to do, man, but like, but like even that wolf vision thing, we didn't do anything cool enough with it. It was a cool visual, but we didn't expand on that.
Well, on top of that too, it's not enough just to kind of do it like that. You like lean into it, like fully commit to it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest problems in this movie is it doesn't commit to shit. It gives you a bunch of parts of stuff, but it didn't fully go, this is the fucking deal. We're committing to this 100%. It's a lot of, hey, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Who knows? Like,
yeah, and if you could smell and hear why wasn't there times where he could smell that man, smell him coming, or be like, let's set up some traps, or let's, like, I think it needed to be more than one night, like, for sure.
But like,
definitely.
Also, how the fuck did that Wolfman just get on the car and nobody heard shit? Like, didn't hear a damn thing, especially not super hearing McGee in the back seat. Nobody heard a fucking peep.
Yeah.
You know, I get it's a jump scare scene, but fuck, like something, you know?
Yeah, he would have heard or smelled something. I mean, even if he just kind of went, you know,
yeah, act like he's hearing something,
tingling or something, just something.
I mean,
damn
maybe
it,
because he's like fresh transformation and all this other stuff. He's just hearing the breathing, but he can't isolate where it is. You know, something like he's just like, it's somewhere around here. I don't know where, but it's around, you know, act like that. I know he can't communicate at that point, but you know what I mean? Like, act like you hear this motherfucker that's actually 3 feet away from you.
Which would play into the whole, like, he's transforming, but he doesn't know what's happening yet. So he's like, where's that noise coming from? What is this? Like, that would have really helped with that, like, I don't know what I'm becoming thing.
Yeah. And then I thought of something too, going back into this other thing where you can lean into of this other werewolf, right? Like the idea of what we were talking about with like the guy and his daughter and all this other stuff. You could even have that be the grandfather, because you can have it be that like they find one of his journals like right before it and all this stuff where he's like, I know I'm going to turn. I can't kill myself. And having even mentioned, I tried eating the mushrooms. It does nothing to me anymore. I have to go isolate myself in the woods and just hope when I transform, no one comes around. So it's the idea that now his son's back at the house because they finally declared him dead after so many years. It's just something he didn't think of. That like all of a sudden, you know, that's why this werewolf is still his dad is there. And because he, you know, in the time in between, he's just living in the woods, trying to stay away from people as much as he can, because he knows when he turns into the wolf, he's going to go attack people, but he just can't end it. And, you know, you can have it be some sort of lore of like, you know, you have to be just so newly werewolf to be killed by normal shit, or you have to be killed by another werewolf. You can make some bullshit up. It's werewolf shit. Make it up. It's werewolves. Who cares if you add something to lore as long as it's cool? That can be the thing. And that's how you can have him be able to kill his dad, because a werewolf can kill another werewolf. But because it's so new in his transformation, that's why the daughter can kill him. And you can kind of solve 2 birds with 1 stone, but keep it in line with everything.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because to me, like, that sounds like a good idea because it all lines up. And it's so weird that this director, especially with what he did in Invisible Man, everything lined up. How come with this movie it didn't? You had this wife over here, and then you had a daughter over here, and you want to do the message of generational trauma, and you didn't really do it, but you kind of did it, and it was so predictable that the father, I mean, if you didn't 15 minutes into this go, it's going to be his father, and they're going to have to fight. It's going to have to be werewolf versus werewolf, and he's going to have to kill his father, or they kill each other or something. If you didn't at least think something like that after seeing the beginning of it. So if it's going to be that predictable, then let's make it a compelling enough story to where it's okay that it's predictable. Like, it's okay that it winds up being the father, because you know what? You're gonna love this incredible journey to get there. But we didn't even have that. It wasn't even an incredible journey. So then when you get there, it's just like, oh, well, duh. I mean, of course it's gonna be his father, you know? And I mean, back to the journal thing, I almost wish he just looked like a wolf and was unrecognizable. And then they read something and find out it was the dad or some shit like that. That might have been crazier.
The fucking tattoo, like, that you see also as he's a wolf man. He's a wolf man with a clearly legible tattoo on his forearm.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to comb through some hair. It's just there. Like, you know what I mean? Just something.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the idea of the journals and stuff like that, where they're like, fuck, that's granddad.
Yeah.
It at least gives you, and like you said, but when he's in wolf form, completely unrecognizable. That's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
You know, something.
Yeah. And then it's also like, if back to our story we came up with where it's just the father and daughter, man, if he was an unrecognizable wolf, it's also kind of that harbinger of what the father's going to become if she doesn't stop it. You know what I'm saying? We get to see the worst of this. This is the worst of what can happen. You know, grandfather is the worst of what can happen. So we need to prevent this from happening, going any further together. You know, it even adds to the metaphor if you do it that way.
Man, you can even have him say something like in his journals, he's like, after the last few full moons, I feel myself like every time I turn, I lose a little bit more of my humanity. So by this point in the movie, even when he's not werewolf, he's just feral person out in the woods, even something like that. You can hint towards that, you know, little things. And like I said, you can even then have the dad maybe never fully transform because it's his first one. And that's why that's why he's still able to be killed. He never fully becomes full beast. He's still in the early stages of it. And that's why he's, you know, weaker, but because it's him as partial wolfman and daughter, that's why they can still kill full beast, you know, because it's 2-on-1. It's, you know, the odds, and werewolf can still kill other werewolf. You know, there's little things you can do. You can also have some of that lore be just part of the mythos of that world, because they're like, oh, it's the camper with hill fever. You know, you can have some of that be an urban legend in that area that is partially true. You know, you can lean into some aspects of that as to explanations of how they know things. Is that could be like, man, it turns out that story we've been hearing for decades, that shit's real. I'm that now. And you can have his journals be a descent into madness, a descent into beast, and then have that final one of that, almost that final amount of lucidity before he goes off in the woods to just succumb to his destiny as Wolfman. Be his, like, you know, like I said, the final journal entry that kind of gives him that shred of light of like, well, you know, this is what you're going to become, Dad, because we know this is what happened. So this is going to be you. You know, we have to figure out how to kill him. And, you know, those things, like little things like that. Which is sad because those are all somewhat tropey things too. They just work better though.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you get the right actors and if you could develop that relationship on screen, because some of the better parts of this movie was the father-daughter relationship. So imagine if you could have that, but you get more scenes of that and you tell this more engrossing story with that. And then maybe by the end, maybe it's not the greatest movie. I'm not saying this is going to get a 90, but maybe you're looking at a 70 to an 80 if you do some of that stuff.
God, I would have loved to watch a 75 Wolfman.
You see what I'm saying? Like maybe you do that. Or if you're just going to fuck it up, just go full Shyamalan with it. This dude's in a wolf costume, and this was just an obsession to be right. he just wanted to be right, so he created the Wolfman.
Dad,
whatever the fuck, do something more interesting than this.
After his son left, he went, I'm going to show my son. I'm going to be the Wolfman.
Yep, so fucking costume.
Just run around the woods in a fucking Spirit Halloween Wolfman costume.
Yeah, Spirit. Yep. it looks hella real all through the movie. And then at the end, he just pulls off a mask and goes, I told you there was a wolf man, boy. It's me.
I kind of want them to kill him. And just as he falls, the mask falls off.
Yeah.
It was Granddad the whole time. And as he's dying, he's like, I told you. I'm a wolf man.
Oh,
and then the son looks scared. And he's like, oh no, I think he scratched me. And he just reaches down and puts the mask on himself.
Yeah.
That's how you end it. He's like, I'm becoming a wolf man too. And the daughter's like, no, Dad, don't put it on. I can't. It's in my genes. God, that makes more sense than what we got. That's the sad thing.
It does though. Why does it? Why? Oh man.
I just want to see that now. I want to see a Wolfman movie where it's the whole thing and it's just a Halloween costume. And just everybody's so crazy that there's like, he scratched me. They're like, no, he didn't. He's like, he did. He scratched me. Mask.
Mask. Wolfman. That'd be sick.
I wanted to end with that. Wolfman. Because he's just sassy. He's just a sassy Wolfman. Anything else on this fucking movie?
I'm good.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We are Cinema Slayers Podcast on Facebook. We're cinema_slayers on Threads, Instagram, Letterboxd. We're at Cinema Slayers Pod on TikTok, maybe for the next 90 days. Who the fuck knows what's going on with that? At Cinema Slayers Pod on YouTube. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Ochoa for our theme song and logos, respectively. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
sassy wolfmen.
Fair enough. I was going to say placating generational trauma.
That too.
One of the two. We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, pro naked. You. Yes, you Cinefans, you are Knuff. Justice for Chris, justice for Todd, justice for all those wonderful stunt people and animators out there. They don't get the credit they deserve. Also, you know what? Credit to all those, and justice for all those mocap actors too. Like Andy Serkis. He needs some justice too. So I'm going to add that going forward too. Mocap actors need it also. And I guess at this point, since we are all Academy Awards and whatnot, remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the Best Picture winner.
Jastin, did you know your girl, Julia Garner, is going to be Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four?
What? Is that true?
Yep. That cast is stacked for that movie. I hope it's actually good.
Who is that?
The girl from this movie. The wife.
Oh.
Yeah, that
okay.
didn't help you.
This is the only thing I think I've seen her in.
Well, surely she'll get a better role in that, though.
Man,
hopefully.
I don't know. You guys were saying stuff like Sydney Sweeney's good. And then I just got introduced to Sydney Sweeney and just terrible things left and right.
I'm telling you, man. And then the guy from Euphoria that you're like, no, I will not.
Never. You're talking about that fuckhead from Abigail, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that man passed away, but no.
But I mean, I'm curious. Silver Surfer, like, I'm curious what this will be like.
Yeah.
Hopefully she channels something better than she did in this fucking movie. I don't know, like some acting or personality or just any sense of humanity whatsoever.
Unfortunately, it's the writing. I don't think it was her fault in this case.
I can't.
She's also in that Inventing Anna show, and she's very good in that too.
You're just making shit up. That's not a real show.
It is
What the
real.
fuck is Inventing Anna?
It's like I think it's on Netflix, but it's supposed to be based on a true story of a girl who was like committing all kinds of fraud and made a bunch of people believe that she was like this rich person.
I know that story.
Yeah. She plays her Anna something.
Oh, I've seen clips of that on TikTok. Her voice annoyed me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not good for her. That's not helping her case for Silver Surfer. I've got a show I've never watched, some clips of a show on TikTok that her voice annoyed me in this movie. I have never looked forward to the Silver Surfer less.
She's good at Ozark. Ozark's pretty good.
Man, I ain't watched a damn minute of that show.
Oh.
I don't watch a lot of Netflix.
Mm.
I mean, but I'm looking at the cast for this Fantastic Four movie, which we know the four main people, but Ralph Ineson is going to be Galactus, whoever that is. I haven't seen the other movies.
I don't care if you haven't seen the other movies. You just said whoever Galactus is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the devourer of worlds.
The Planet Eater.
I see.
He is the end and the beginning. He is Galactus. And you're just like, I don't know, whoever the fuck that is. It's Galactus.
But it's also got Natasha Lyonne in it. Paul Walter Hauser, the guy from Richard Jewell, John Malkovich. It's just good people in this movie. Hopefully it is a good movie.
Well, it's got to be better than Fan Forstick.
And Jastin.
Did you see that, Heather? Did you see Fan Forstick?
Negative.
Yeah, you need to catch up on your Fantastic Four before this movie.
Can I do a clean slate and just not see them?
Oh, fuck you.
You need to add that to the cape.
You can fuck right off if you think you get to just go into a potentially good Fantastic Four movie without any sort of trauma from any other Fantastic Four movie. You're out your goddamn mind.
Yeah, you got to get on them, Heather. You need to understand what has happened to the Fantastic Four and why people are praying for this one.
But you also got to understand why, if this movie is just mediocre, it's still kind of a win.
Yep.
Like if you just go into it going, and you come out and you go, it was a comic movie, I guess. That's a win. Because you need to know how low it can get.
To be fair, I have seen the very first one, like the Jessica Alba guy from Charmed. I've seen that one. But
you didn't watch Rise of the Silver Surfer?
No.
And see the Galactus cloud?
No. See, this is why I don't know Galactus. No, I did not.
To be fair, you still wouldn't know who the fuck Galactus is based on that movie either.
Yeah, you would.
To be fair. It's not an accurate representation.
Not quite.
That sounds right.
It's a cloud. And one thing I'll say about Galactus, he's not a cloud.
Safely say that, yes.
So, yeah. But you need to be traumatized. I want you to see how bad it is. I want you to go into a Michael B. Jordan movie and come out disgusted.
Must be some special kind of bad. I don't know, man.
Oh, God.
As much shit as we've given some movies like these Cravens and shit, Craven never stood a chance, really. If you're honest, Craven didn't stand a chance. Fan Forstick had a chance. It's got a great cast. It at the time had a great director.
Who was it?
Did.
Fuck, I don't think I remember who it is because I don't think he's done anything of note since that fucking movie. Now I feel like a jackass.
Hold on. Josh Trank?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he had done Chronicle.
Oh yeah.
Chronicle's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
So we went from Chronicle to this, and we're like, fuck yeah. Like, this is going to be it. And, you know, it stacked cast, stacked. I mean, Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Bell, Kate Mara. Even this guy that played Dr. Doom wasn't the biggest asshat. I mean, he's the same guy that played fucking Koba in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He played motherfucking Koba. And that's why you have to see this movie. You have to see how bad it can be. Because as bad as those other ones were, they were better than this. So, I mean, yeah, you really need to experience it, Heather. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I understand the assignment now.
No, I don't think you do. Anyway, anything else, guys?
I'm good.
Oh, God. We came in so far under 3 hours. Thank you. This is exactly what we needed to reset the timeline and prove to ourselves we could do an under 3 hour podcast. We just needed a Wolfman.
Yep.
Oh. All right, I'm out.